Happy Family Day.
Happy Family Day, everybody. Good to see you on here for Sermon Break.
Yep.
Okay, it's Family Day, but I think it's only Canada that celebrates
It
Family Day,
is.
right? This
It
is like our
is.
own Canadian holiday.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was in Buffalo and they had no idea it was a long weekend.
I think it's because we know as Canadians that winter is hard.
Yeah.
February is always the hardest month. So they've given us this day off to just refresh and like a mental health day.
Yeah,
I feel like.
and to spend it with your family.
Yeah.
I hope you are spending your family day with your family. And let me know in the chat. I want to know, where did Family Day originate from?
I don't know.
Because it's a newer thing,
We
right?
could have done more research.
Yeah, we should have done more research.
I don't know exactly, but I feel like I remember when we didn't have Family Day. Like
Yes.
I remember when this holiday came in place. But
Yeah.
put it in the chat. What are you doing for Family Day? What are
Yeah.
you doing for Family Day?
I am working on a paper.
Okay.
My mom and my sister are in New York City, so I am kind of spending Family Day, just me and my stepdad, and then just working on my paper.
Oh, that's fun. Look at
Yeah.
you being super studious.
Super studious.
We're just
How
having
about
a
you?
relaxing day at home.
Oh, that's fun.
I have plans to do some art with Grace. I love doing different activities with her. So that's what I will be doing, and probably drinking lots of hot chocolate or something. So,
Hot chocolate. That sounds good. What kind of art do you guys do?
well, Steven hates when I do anything messy, but my favorite thing to do is make everything messy. So we'll probably do some paint. I have some canvas that I want to do with her, and like we just glue little things around, and I don't know. I don't even know if she loves getting messy, but I just love giving her the opportunity, and she can
That's
do
the
what she wants
teacher
with
in
it.
you.
That's the teacher in me.
So stay tuned. Next week we will be premiering Grace
Grace's
Finch's
artwork. Grace's artwork.
Yeah.
Grace's artwork. But
Yeah.
I loved the message
Yeah.
from Lysa TerKeurst. Okay, she is one of my all-time favorite authors.
She's incredible.
Holly mentioned how she has written over 25 books. I
Yes.
feel like I've at least read half of those.
Yes.
Stephen can attest that I have so many of her books in our bookshelf. And fun fact, 100 days before our wedding, he gave me a devotional that I read, and it like prepared me to enter into marriage. It was called Embraced. It's one of my favorite
That's so
devotionals that she
sweet.
wrote. It was really, really sweet.
I love that.
But
That's
I
so
love her new
sweet.
book.
Yes.
I haven't actually read it yet, so maybe I can't say I love it, but if it's anything like The Servant, I know I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to just order it and
I know
start
that
reading it.
Charlotte on our staff, our eKids director, she read it and she keeps talking about it.
Yes.
So
Shout out Charlotte Fishback. She
Yes.
always has the best book recommendations.
Always.
There's always a book if I'm talking about it, she's already one step ahead of me and has
Yes.
read it. And I bet you she's already read this.
She has.
She's read this
She
new book.
has.
She's read her new book. I
Yeah.
think it's Good Boundaries and Goodbyes,
Yes.
if I'm quoting it right. I remember we actually attended a conference in the
Mm-hmm.
summer for She Speaks, and she was talking about her book now. So we did know a little bit about what to
Yes.
expect with this sermon, but it was great. It was super, super impactful for me. Should we check out a clip and
We
put
should.
your sermon takeaways in the
Yes.
chat first? We'll watch this clip and then we'll talk about what stood out to us. So check it out.
Even from creating the foundations of the world, God used boundaries in such healthy ways. I'm convinced, right here from Genesis 1, that boundaries are not just a good idea, they are actually God's idea. But now let's
so good.
So good.
Boundaries are not just a good idea, they're actually God's idea.
And we had to play this clip because this really sets the foundation for everything that she was about to talk about. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but I never really thought about boundaries as really being so intentional and
Right.
part of God's plan for our life. For me, I feel like I've always, I don't know if it's struggled with boundaries, but just always seen it in this negative way. But when I can attest to it to being something that God fully designed so that
Right.
we could live the abundant life that he promised, I want to go all in with boundaries
Yes.
and really understand them and how to make them work for my good and so that I can experience more freedom.
Yeah, I think that too, the way that she laid it out, she said, I always thought I wasn't a girl that boundaries were for.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. I've always
Right?
been very like, well, I'm so soft and kind and
Yeah.
I just love everybody, but you need boundaries. Like
Right.
they are biblical. Boundaries are biblical.
Yeah, that's so good. That's really, really good. I loved when she talked about just talking about this idea of boundaries and this idea that we have limited capacity, right? Our time, our energy, our money. And sometimes we can get requests and they feel like they become our responsibility.
Right.
And I love the story she was talking about how if you were a second grade, you had a child in second grade
Yeah.
is what she talked about. but then your child graduated to 3rd grade, but the teacher still asked you to plan the party. And how she said, oh, my heart wants to plan the party, but I know my time doesn't allow me to. And I feel like so many times I am naturally a bit of a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I want to keep the peace. I want to keep everybody happy. And I've never really looked at, sometimes requests can come to me that I think are great, but they're not always my responsibility.
Right.
And I feel like as I've gotten a little bit older and more mature in this, I've really been trying to be intentional of what I say yes to, because I know when I say yes to something, it's actually a no to something else. And I need to really protect my time and my energy so that I can really be a good steward of all the things that God has entrusted to me, whether that's relationships, whether that's my family, whether it's just my own energy, because honestly, as I've gotten older, I do not have the same energy that I used to have. And I'm not old, but I can definitely see a shift, and I feel like my responsibilities have grown, and I need to be able to steward them well, because that's something that God has really called me to.
Right. And she said, we're not limited because we're selfish, but it's
Right.
because we're just human.
Right.
And even Jesus was limited in his capacity and what he could give to people, and how he was navigating relationships with other people.
And Jesus rested, right? He took intentional time away from his disciples so that he could refuel with the Father.
Right.
And I think so many times in our life we can think, oh, we're going to church, or I'm praying with my friend, or I'm praying in my small group. But no, we need one-on-one time with Jesus himself, sitting in the Word, sitting in prayer alone, nobody else, so that we can fully refresh and rest in him.
That's so good. And even when I think about like the miracles that Jesus performed, he didn't always bring everybody into the room. There were certain rooms that he was like, I have to set the boundary that you can't come to this space with me. I have to do this alone with God. And so boundaries really are biblical, and Lysa really laid that out clearly for us. I would love to jump to scripture, Proverbs 25, verse 16 and 17. I'm reading from the NIV version, and it says that, if you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it, and you will vomit. It then goes on to say, seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Too much of you, and they will hate you.
Right.
And I think that it's so clear that there's boundaries that are throughout the Bible. And we look at Proverbs as the book of wisdom, the book that we can really glean from and take from. But it's so clear that we're not supposed to just give all of ourselves to everyone, because we do have a limited capacity.
Right.
And it's even saying, whether it be a food thing, like don't eat too much honey because it's not good for you. It will make you sick. But it's really about self-control. And Lysa was saying it's one of the fruits of the Spirit. It's something that a lot of times when we learn boundaries, I think even like growing up, we think of boundaries as this thing that this is my way of controlling someone else's position in my life, when really it's like, no, how can I control my position in their life? Like me, let me put the boundary on myself.
Right.
So
I love that scripture too, and how it talks about honey, because honey is such a sweet thing. And some of these things that come into our life, they are sweet. They're good things. Planning that party was a good thing for that mom. Like she said, oh, it makes you feel really good. But I love that it's this idea of self-control and really recognizing what things are for us, because not everything is for us in that season, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So I thought that was really great.
Yeah, and the burden of saying yes versus the burden of saying no. Lysa was saying that a lot of times we're willing to say yes because we're like, I just don't want to carry the weight of saying no.
Right.
When really, what does that burden cost us? Like a burden is something that's weighty, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it costs us our time with our family, like you were saying, Kristen.
Right.
What I'm saying yes to, that means I'm saying no to something else.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is our one-on-one time with God. It is our time with our family. It is our time with people maybe that are closest to us or that God's entrusted us to steward relationship with. Or even just ourselves. Like maybe a lot of times I confuse my availability with, oh, I can just do whatever now because I'm like, I have all this time, when God's like, no, I need you to just be with me right now.
She also talked about, it was right near the end when she talked about just this idea about the dive master, right? And how she took her eyes off the dive master for a moment. And sometimes I think we don't put boundaries in place because we desperately want from people that we fear God won't provide. Yeah. And I think sometimes we don't put boundaries because we think, oh, we're going to disappoint them, or they're not going to like us. And it's not going to be a good outcome. But it's really for us to really understand that it doesn't matter what other people do. It's really about being so secure on God and looking at him for everything. So I thought that was a great point.
I think that point that she shared too, just like, it's hard. It's hard to set boundaries. I know for myself, because I'm like, I don't want to lose that person, or I don't want to lose the thing that they give me, because not consciously, but somewhere deep down, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get that from God. I need to get that from that person.
Right.
But I think that it's just because it's hard, it's not impossible, but also God is so faithful. Like he's not going to lead you astray. He didn't bring you this far to just abandon you. And so when we're putting these boundaries in place, I think it's really showing him, like, I'm stewarding this relationship well, and I'm being intentional with it.
Yeah.
Not just, okay, let me hold on to everything I can hold on to because I'm scared that I'm going to lose it.
Right. I think something good that you really do and that you've really showed me a lot is your time in your prayer closet and how you've put this boundary up. I'll text this girl and she'll not get back to me for an hour. She's like, oh, sorry, I was in my prayer closet alone. I'm out now. How can I help you? But I think that's great that you have put that boundary around yourself. And it's not that you're being selfish or not wanting to talk to me, but you've really made this quiet time such a priority for you in your life. And I think that's just a great example of how even when maybe I have something that I'm asking you to do or a project we're working on, you still kept your eyes on that dive master.
Right.
And you're still, no matter what, I need time with my God before anything else. So I love that about you. And I think that's something that we should all be doing. And I've definitely tried to make that more of a habit in my life too, of just, again, like I was saying, this one-on-one time.
Yeah. And shout out to Matt White. He taught me how to use focus on my phone. And so now when I click the button, it kind of just like lets everyone know if they go to text me. It says like
do not disturb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do not disturb.
I'll keep a lookout.
It's been my best friend the last little while, because it just, then people can message me, but I don't get the notification. So I don't respond right away.
That's great. Well, now I know.
Now you know.
Now I know. Now I know.
But Lysa was also talking about this activity, this exercise that she does through journaling. And I think that it's an incredible tool, and I'm going to implement it. I'm going to write it down. But she said, this is who Lysa is when I am frazzled, when I'm worn down, when I don't have anything left.
When there's no boundaries
When there's no boundaries in place. But then she also, on the contrary, said this is who Lysa is when she's operating at her best. And she's like, I'm happy, I'm healthy. And she listed all the things that she is when she has put boundaries in place. And I think that that's like a good reference point to go to really write that down for yourself and see, like, who am I when I'm not putting boundaries in place?
Right. When your energy's running low.
Right.
When your time is being taken by lots of multiple people or things or events.
Yeah. And I know for me, like, I'm going to do this activity as well, but I can as soon as she said the first one, I was like, I know how I become when I am not putting up boundaries, and I actually become resentful of the other person.
Right.
When really it's not their fault. It's my own. I need to control the boundary. I need to put that boundary on myself. And then I think too, it lifts some of the responsibility off of them. And then you don't, hopefully, prayerfully, you're not as resentful towards them and regarding your time.
Right. We can't control other people. We can only control ourselves, and we can only change ourselves. And I think if we can take that pressure off that we need to change someone or we need to keep someone going.
Right.
She was even using the reference of you can't be, if someone has a cardiac arrest, you can't be the one keeping them alive, constantly giving them CPR. They have to walk for themselves. But the more that we can just take that responsibility off another person and put it on ourselves and figure out how can I be the healthiest version of me, I think there's so much freedom in that. And like she said, boundaries bring freedom.
Yes.
So it was a great message. I would encourage you, watch it back, get her book. I feel like there's going to be so much gold in it, and we'll dive even deeper into this idea of boundaries. And we can all use it. We don't need to read a book like this when we feel like we don't have any boundaries in our life. We can use it now so that we're set up for success when different things come into our life.
Yes.
So.
And we have some really exciting things happening.
We do.
Coming up
This
Thursday at 7 p.m., 1980 Matheson Boulevard East. That's right here at our Mississauga campus. We're having a worship night.
We are having a worship night, but not just any worship night.
No.
We are ramping up.
Yes.
You know, we are going to the Scotiabank Arena with Elevation Nights, but we wanted to prepare our hearts now. We wanted to get into Jesus's presence now. There is been such a hunger for him across, I feel like, the world right now. And I just think this is coming at the most perfect time. So Road to the Arena worship night. We have so many surprises in
Lots
store.
of surprises.
Shout out Chick-fil-A.
Yes, shout out Chick-fil-A.
They're donating some great food to us. We have some new merch coming.
Yes.
So get here early. Doors are open at 6:30. There's going to be lineups. So get here and get ready to worship and invite everybody you know.
Yes, invite everybody you know. If they haven't been to the campus before, that this is the perfect opportunity to invite them. It's going to be so fun. It's going to be just an incredible night. So,
yes. Well, we hope to see you there and have a great family day. Enjoy, rest, take that time for you. Set that boundary for just the time of you and God today and some point this week, and truly be expectant for what he's going to do when you do prioritize just that one-on-one time with him. So we'll see you Thursday night.